Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Activate and Illuminate podcast with Mel. I'm your host, Mel. Together, we're going to be diving into some stories of ordinary people doing a little bit of extraordinary things. People who've maybe pushed their bodies, their mindsets, or maybe society's paradigms. So you're going to find yourself maybe wanting to laugh, cry, or even be inspired. We would invite you to share, like, and subscribe, to sign up for our newsletter as well on activateandilluminate.com. Now, just keep in mind that this information that you are going to hear is informational and educational for entertainment purposes only. This does not constitute professional advice of any kind. The views expressed are those of myself and guests only. Listeners are encouraged to seek professional and legal advice regarding their own situations. So, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time, and thanks again for being here. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Activate and Illuminate podcast. Today, I have with us Carrie Sakamoto from here in Alberta, Canada, who has a story that is likely going to leave you thinking a little bit more about some things that we've heard about. Now, her story, I'm going to let her share her story, but she is an advocate for health. She's an advocate for advocacy. And I'm going to let you get into a little bit of your story, Carrie, but tell us how this story started and where you are today versus from where you were a few years ago.
Thank you for having me, Melanie. It's important that people can share space with us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thankful for that. My story is like many others. It was 2021.
Yeah.
And we were being told to go and do some things for our health. And, both my parents were in the military. And so I really grew up with the mindset you don't really question authority, especially the government. My parents both served, and it was in the family. I still have family members in the military. So it was just kind of always ingrained into us that that's just what you did, and that you did your part and as a Canadian citizen. And so when it was told it was time to do your part, I signed up. I went in April of 2000 and I got my first jab, and I was okay. My husband went with me and we were both fine. We had sore arms, but that was it. Because my previous history, because my parents, I've had all of my vaccines, all the childhood vaccines, traveled, got some of those vaccines. It really was never a thought to me, and they weren't showing anything negative in the media about it. I was just being seen and told, save grandma, don't kill grandma, don't, you have to be careful, do your part and we'll get through this. So I went and did my part. So I thought, got the first one. They yanked the brand that I had, they pulled it out of Canada. And then I was faced with having to make a choice of mixing. I did go to my doctor. I was concerned about that, even though Trudeau was saying on the news that it was safe. I did question that. That was probably my first time I questioned what was happening, because I was like, well, they pulled this one and now they're saying, I've already got this one. So now what? So anyway, I made a choice. I got my second one in June of 2021. I got sick right away. By that, I mean within a few hours. It was flu-like symptoms. So I was in bed, felt rotten, but my husband felt the same. So we were just kind of suffering together. It just felt like a really bad flu. But after about 5-6 days, my husband was feeling better. He was, the symptoms had passed. He wasn't feeling crappy. But I developed a really high fever and my throat hurt really bad. And I called to make an appointment with my doctor. And because I had a sore throat and I was feeling terrible, they weren't letting anybody in face to face. So I had to do a phone call with my doctor. And so I described to her what was going on, and we determined over the phone that it was tonsil stones on the right side caused from the fever. So she prescribed some antibiotics, and she said if I wasn't feeling better in a few days to call her back. So my husband went and got the medications, and within about 12 hours, I did. Sorry, my words aren't coming. My brain developed what I describe as brain fire. It was like a really bad burning sensation. It was so bad, I started vomiting and I couldn't stop. And I had already been sick for a really long time, and now I'm vomiting and it wouldn't stop. And so I went into emergency, and they thought I was having a migraine. So they gave me a shot of Gravol, and they gave me a shot of migraine medication. I can't remember exactly what it was. And I was feeling better. And so they were like, you can go home. It was a migraine. So I left, but within a few hours after all the medications wore off, I was back feeling just where I was. I was throwing up again. The pain was really intense. So I went back to emergency. On my way to emergency, it felt like my face was swelling up. And I was looking in the side mirror, and I actually watched all the muscles just drop in my face, and I thought I had a stroke. I thought I was having a stroke. When I got to emergency, they did a evaluation of me and came to a conclusion that it was Bell's palsy. So they gave me steroids and a couple other things, and they said that the hospital was full of COVID patients and that I should go home. And that I would be fine. And if anything changed, I could come back. So again, I'm still having the pain in my head, but they're giving me pain medications. So it's kind of keeping it at bay. But again, I get home and the pain returns, but now I've got Bell's palsy. I'm throwing up. I'm super dizzy, and I can feel it coming on the other side of my face. So back to emergency, and they admitted me. And I stayed there I was in the hospital for the first week. It was about the 8th day. It was the 5th day or the 8th day. I'm sorry, I'd have to go back and look.
That's okay.
My doctors came to me and said that they believe that this was caused from my jab.
Mhm.
And that they would be reporting it to Ottawa. And they did. It was 5 doctors. It was my specialist, the doctor who was treating me, and then I had 2 neurologists, and he had some colleagues, and they all had come to this conclusion because of, the train of events that had happened. And come to find out, they were seeing this in the trials. So, but these doctors obviously had never seen it, but I had really good care. I stayed in the hospital for about 17 days. It was really hard. I had to have feeding tubes. At the time, I had to tape my eyes shut because it was paralyzed open. Now I have a condition called synkinesis. So basically, the nerves have healed back wrong. So this is a permanent injury. So unfortunately, this does happen to some people. Reports have come out. There's been over 200 people like me in Canada. That's just in Canada that have been reported. And this was coming from the official website. When I got out of the hospital, my instinct was to warn other people. It was really hard to get out of the hospital. Sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit here.
That's okay.
I couldn't see my family because they had COVID restrictions. And so I had only my husband and my mother could come and visit. So that was my motivation really to get up out of that bed and get going, especially after what I knew. Once I was told what it was, I wanted to tell the world. I wanted everybody to know, not because I wanted everybody to be against it, but because I wanted people to see that this was happening. I would go to social media, I would create accounts, and they would get taken down because I would say the wrong words. And so I was trying to reach people like me, to see if there was people like me. I was going to the media. They were denying me, even though I'd been told by my doctors that that's what was wrong with me. People wanted more proof, and I get it. I understand. So I applied for the uh, VISP program in Canada. And then I began a journey with them, which was a whole nother thing. So
Tell us what that stands for.
the Vaccine Injury Support Program,
Okay.
and that's in Canada. And you can just Google that for anyone else who's injured that may be watching or knows somebody who's injured. You can go to that website and all the information is there.
Okay.
I went to the media. They wanted more proof. So I applied to the government program. It was actually suggested by my doctor that I apply. I didn't know about this program. I don't know how they knew about it, but somebody knew and they told me. And so I applied right away. Actually, before I got out of the hospital, my husband had reached out for the first contact. That was in 21. I went through 9 case managers before my case was approved, even though I had all of this stuff. It was really awful. I was a part of the Global News National program where Carolyn Jarvis exposed the program for the millions of dollars that they've wasted. And the awful things that have been done. You'll have to read about it. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but they were discovered to be doing a lot of things that shouldn't be done. So it was taken away from them. But before I get to that, my case was finally approved in March of 2020. I was given a payout. When they gave the payout, I was really happy because finally I was seeing something. I was giving a lot of money out, paying a lot of money for therapies. Like none of this stuff was covered. So I was having to pay for vestibular therapies for my balance, therapies for my face. And now I have memory loss from the medications that I take. So I had applied for the program. I received a payout, but they had missed a bunch of things that I feel, they're part of this permanent injury. The psychological damage is one. I started a I Give Send Go, and that pays for a lot of my therapies. They had missed a bunch of things with my injury. So
Okay.
I applied for an appeal, and
Okay.
I am in the appeal process right now, still in 2026. They still have not resolved my claim, which is insane. They denied all of my therapies and my medications in the beginning, and that's what I'm trying to get. I've spent thousands of dollars on medication. I take 5 different medications every day. These are things I never took. I don't have a normal life anymore. I've adjusted and, I have joy in my life. I have a really great support group. My family is amazing. So lucky in that way, especially when you consider everything that goes on online. Going online and making myself public, I was able to bring forth a class action lawsuit, and that is with Eva Chipiuk and Jeffrey Rath from Rath and Company out of Calgary. And they are representing me, and I've been doing that for a few years. I've been in court with that. So it is a class action, and it's filed as a class action. We will find out in June we will find out shortly if we can proceed as a class action or if I have to continue on my own. It will depend on what the judge feels. So far, she's been very fair and very receptive to hearing my case and seems to have some interest in it. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, that's awesome. What do you think when you were talking about the numbers, what do you think when you said reported numbers, now, were all of those reported numbers, all of those people, were they all eligible for stuff like this? Now, did they all, like, did that injury program benefit everybody, do you feel, that had been injured, or did people have to fight for it?
Everybody is fighting for it. I personally haven't met anyone else who's received a payout. And I've met hundreds, if not thousands, of injured people in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I've met a lot of very seriously injured people. Kayla Pollock, of course, Dan Hartman, who lost his son. There's a lot of people that have, or there's a few of us that have court cases. So we're trying to keep it in the forefront as much as we can. You know, people forget, people have moved on, but there are a huge amount of people who can't move on, who are like me, that it touched every part of my life.
So what would you say that you feel, when you talked a little bit about it prior, about your family being in the military, and that was part of the reason that you just went, that you felt the way you did at the time. Do you feel any different about that now?
Oh, yes. Because my way of thinking has done a 360, it's been very difficult. I do see a psychiatrist. Feel like it's almost like if you were brainwashed and you had to readjust to normal society, that's how it feels. It feels like I've all of this stuff has opened up. I've seen all of this stuff firsthand. Um, and um, it was very confusing, and hard to accept what happened to me, and that the government has tried so hard to hide it all and cover it up and push it away. For example, closing the files for the next 15 years. Why? Why would a person do that? It just feels like a personal attack. It feels like they're trying to push us under the rug, and we're fighting like heck to stay relevant. And I have a lot of support online. People are very kind. I was met with people who I thought were friends or people who had the same beliefs as me turned against me because I was coming forward and speaking about this. I don't know if it's, some people just don't believe it, which is crazy because for as long as there's been jabs, there's been jab injuries. This isn't anything new. We just want some help. It's not that hard. We were told that no one gets left behind. Nobody's going to be left behind. We're going to help everybody. I've said that a million times, but it plays in my head all the time. Where's the help? They've taken this program away because it's so awful and given it to the Public Health Agency of Canada. They've changed the name, and I don't know what else they're going to change. We'll see. It changes hands April 1st.
April 1st, it changes hands. Well, that's interesting. You said something in there about how you felt like it was brainwashing, and it's hard for you to even believe some of the things that you feel or that you know are true, or just processing it with a therapist. What have you seen out there in the real world as far as this? I feel like from my perspective, there's a lot of people that I know that have experienced different things that would like to explain it to anything else, because it's so hard for us in our mind to think that it's even possible and what that might mean if it is possible. So for anybody out there struggling right now with just realizing some of this information, what would you tell them is helpful?
Support groups are helpful because you can hear other people's stories. And when you see the same thing over and over again, or you find someone else like you that has very similar symptoms, it kind of pieces together a story, It kind of, yeah, it makes things more clear.
Are there public support groups, or are most of these private?
So there is a group called Can Rise 19 is the
Yeah,
Canadian group,
yeah.
and that I touched on earlier. I do volunteer with them, and I help people who are trying to get through this program or apply or are facing, you know, a lot of the same struggles I am. I'm not a professional, but I have been doing this for 5 years, and I just want to help any way I can because I know how isolating this is and how hard it can be. Even though I was fortunate and I had a team of doctors that have said that this is wrong, it's very hard for people who've been injured to get help. And because a lot of doctors are afraid to say what it is. It's hard to get the help that you need. So I like to
So,
speak to others like that because I've been given a voice, because I was able to prove everything. That's why I speak out about it.
yeah, what would you say is the mindset component? What do you do to keep your mind so strong and stay in the game?
The support groups are really great. Just to know that you have somebody in your corner, people that really understand what you're going through, just like with anything. My family, they keep me going. I keep myself busy. I have to spend a lot of time laying down. I have some neurological issues like vertigo is really bad. That makes it hard to do things. So I stick around home most of the time. It's my comfortable environment. I do homeschool with my youngest. That keeps me busy. She's in grade 10. So there's that. Yeah, and yeah, I just stay close to home. I try to do fundraising for my therapies so I can see my psychologist as much as possible. Yeah, and I'm just trying to work my way through this program, and hopefully one day this will all be done. My court case will be settled, and the injury program will be resolved, and I'll be able to maybe just rest.
What would you say that you know about yourself now that you didn't know about yourself before this happened?
That I can do public speaking, that's for sure. It's hard to learn to speak in front of people, do interviews and podcasts and stuff. That my voice does matter. That my story is inspirational to other people, and it makes me feel like it's not all for nothing.
What would you wish more people understood about Bell's palsy or neurological symptoms like this?
That yes, it's paralyzed. That doesn't mean it's numb. I can feel everything. As a matter of fact, it hurts a lot. It pulls through my neck and all through my face. It's a constant pulling.
Okay.
If I talk too much, like now, it's really starting to pull and burn. Some people recover from Bell's palsy. Unfortunately, my nerves have been permanently damaged, and that does happen sometimes. The swelling was so bad that it cut the nerves.
Wow. What do you know about your intuition now that you didn't know back then?
I question everything, definitely. I go with my gut way more. I don't just accept things at face value. I really, really look into everything, and I'm very cautious about who I let into my circle. And
I think that's great advice for anyone. So, for anybody out there right now that's discouraged about their health or just, different things happening to them, what would you tell them about something that maybe could give them some hope about their future?
It's hard because a person has to wake up and figure it out yourself every day.
Mhm.
I don't know how to be inspirational to other people. I feel like I just try to get through each day and share my story no matter how hard it is that day. Again, I can't stress enough surrounding yourself with people like support groups online.
Mhm.
And it's very, very nice because you don't have to leave your house to meet with all these people. I've met with people just like Kayla, and we've become friends, and I see them all the time online. We've never met in person, but now actually I do events sometimes, and I'm meeting a lot of followers, so that's really nice. It's always nice to meet people in person. I get recognized quite a bit in my community now, so lots of hugs. So that's always nice. I definitely have way more support now than I did in the beginning. I think a lot has come out in the last few years, and people are starting to see how many people really have been affected negatively by this.
You said something that I just want to clarify. You said, I don't know how to be inspirational. I would beg to differ because by you doing exactly what you're doing, which is telling your story, you are being inspirational. So I think you know how to be inspirational because yeah, and that might not be your primary intent, but just by you sharing your story, people are going to resonate with it and connect with it, and you're going to give hope to people. So, have you noticed a difference in our healthcare system or in resources or in things that were available to you? Like, have you noticed a shift in our healthcare system or over the last few years?
No, I
Okay.
haven't. No, I think a lot of people still find it really hard to find a doctor that will treat them for what it actually is. A lot of song and dance, it's in your head. So a lot of the times they like to say that, unless you can physically see it, like on me. It can be really difficult. It's important to have an advocate for you, I think, when you're trying to navigate this stuff because you're already injured and you're trying to get things done for yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything that you can think of that you would like to share to anybody suffering out there, just as far as any therapies that you're doing or anything like that that is making a difference?
I wish there was. I wish there was something that was making things better, but I've just had to adjust to the way things are. And I just spend a lot of time at home. My thoughts really swirl around. I find it really hard to function outside of my home.
Um, I so appreciate you having this conversation. And why don't we keep this to a short conversation? I don't want to stress you out more or make you tired more, but I appreciate you sharing your story. I appreciate you talking about this process that you've been through. So we are going to have a link to your Give Send Go in the podcast show notes and some of these other organizations and programs and stuff. Even if the names change by then. Um, and we will have that in the show notes. Is there anything else, Carrie, that you would like to share with anybody right now?
Feel free to reach out. I love connecting with other people. It might take me some time. I do get a lot of messages, but I definitely try to at least make contact with everybody. If there's anything I can do, I will. The Give Send Go also has where you can just leave messages and or a prayer, and messages of support have been amazing. I have a really great, I mean, people can be very kind and very generous and very supportive. And I definitely found that online.
Well, thank you. And I am sorry for the circumstances, but I applaud you for stepping up and doing what you're doing and sharing your voice and being a little bit of a hope and a beacon for others. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.